You don't feel deceived, you feel informed. That's why this works. Artificial intelligence rarely sounds unsure when it's wrong. It sounds fluent, certain, finished, and we mistake fluency for truth. That's the tell, not because it lies, but because it completes. We've been told AI hallucinates, which is a polite, almost charming way of saying it fabricates. Citations that don't exist, quotes no one said, studies that were never run. But here's the part no one says plainly. It's not malfunctioning. It's optimizing. It predicts the next most likely word. It fills in gaps. It produces coherence at scale, even when coherence outruns truth. That's not a bug. That's the business model of intelligence under pressure. Now, here's the uncomfortable turn. So do you. Humans are pattern completion machines. We fill silence with story. We fill uncertainty with narrative. We fill ambiguity with motive. And most of the time, it feels wise. Because coherence feels like intelligence. This isn't an episode about fearing AI. It's an episode about recognizing architecture. Because once you understand how hallucination works in a machine, you start to see how it works in media, in markets, and in institutions. Let's strip this down. When an AI model doesn't know something, it doesn't experience doubt. It predicts, it extrapolates, it completes the pattern based on statistical probability. If most similar prompts resolved a certain way, it resolves that way. Not because it verified it, because it fits the pattern. Now translate that to human systems. When leaders face incomplete information, they rarely present it as incomplete. They infer trajectory. They infer motive. They infer inevitability. And they complete the pattern, not because it's proven, but because it stabilizes perception. Coherence calms markets. Coherence calms employees. Coherence calms voters. Coherence reduces volatility. And volatility is expensive. In other words, coherence is not evidence, it's stability. Why does this matter now? Because we are entering an era where predictive systems shape decisions before facts fully form. AI drafts the memo. AI drafts the brief. AI drafts the analysis. And if it sounds complete, it moves. Speed becomes authority, and authority rarely pauses to ask, wait, did we verify this? Here's the articulation C-level executives might quietly recognize. Artificial intelligence does not hallucinate because it is reckless. It hallucinates because it is rewarded for coherence under uncertainty. And so are we. Quarterly pressure, investor calls, media cycles, public expectations. When uncertainty is penalized, completion becomes survival. That's not villainy. That's incentive design. And incentives shape output. Every time. Now we bring in poetic truth. Poetic truth is the version of reality that captures emotional resonance over empirical detail. It's tidy, compelling, memorable. It spreads faster than nuance because it resolves tension. When AI hallucinates, it often produces something plausible. When institutions distort, they often produce something stabilizing. Different tools, same gravitational pull. Resolve the tension, close the loop, and keep it moving. Here's the part people avoid saying. Uncertainty is reputational risk, so we eliminate it linguistically. Right-sizing, reframing, clarification. We don't remove the problem. We smooth the story. It's not always deception. Sometimes it's choreography. And yes, we've seen that dance before. The danger isn't fabrication. It's polished completion delivered before verification catches up.
Before we keep going with Jim, quick pause. If this episode feels familiar, that's not an accident. Distorted is the book version of this exact moment. Not about villains, not about secret plots, but about what happens when institutions stop explaining themselves and start managing perception instead. It's a guide to recognizing when trust the process quietly replaces accountability, when silence does more work than statements, and when reasonable questions start getting treated like disruptions. No manifestos, no megaphones, just patterns, incentives, and the uncomfortable parts everyone edits out. If you've ever thought, I'm not angry, I'm just not buying this, then that's the book. Pick up Distorted today. It's currently the #1 hot new release in communication and media studies and a top 10 title in both media studies and politics on Amazon. All right, Jim, back to it.
There's emerging research showing that confident but incorrect AI outputs can subtly reshape user memory over time, not dramatically, incrementally. Repetition plus coherence begins to feel like recall, but this isn't new. Repeated headlines, repeated framing, repeated summaries, memory bends toward familiarity. The machine didn't invent that, it industrialized it. Here's the deeper pattern. AI doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, is this statistically probable given the training data? Humans often don't ask, is this verified? We ask, does this match what I already believe? That's cognitive efficiency. It's also how distortion scales without anyone intending harm. If this feels slightly exposing, good. Because it's easier to blame the machine. It's harder to admit the machine learned from us. Our language, our arguments, our certainty, our unwillingness to say, I don't know yet. The model is trained on human completion. It is not alien. It is derivative. Here's the mental model. Intelligence, human or artificial, will prioritize coherence unless deliberately trained to tolerate uncertainty. That's it. If coherence is rewarded, coherence will dominate. If uncertainty is punished, hallucination becomes inevitable. Why does the explanation artificial intelligence is the threat feel satisfying? Because it relocates responsibility. It suggests distortion is external, but if the same pattern exists in media, in institutions, in financial markets, in culture, then the machine isn't the origin, it's the accelerator. Gaslighting enters carefully here. Gaslighting isn't merely lying, it's destabilizing someone's confidence in their perception. When confident completion repeatedly replaces messy verification, you begin to doubt your own hesitation. Maybe I missed something. Maybe they know more. That's how perception bends, not through chaos, through smoothness. The lights don't go out all at once. They dim, one confident completion at a time. Think of it this way. Hallucination is what happens when coherence outruns humility. Now, let's bring it home. You scroll, you read, you listen. A narrative forms instantly. It has motive, it has causality, it has resolution, it feels intelligent, but intelligence without friction isn't wisdom. It's completion. The discipline is simple. When something sounds perfectly formed in real time, ask, what would make this less tidy? What data would complicate this? Who benefits from this feeling finished? If questioning it feels socially risky, you may be close to something worth examining. We don't need to panic about AI. We need to examine incentives. Speed rewards completion. Markets reward confidence. Algorithms reward engagement. Verification is slower. Humility is quieter. And humility rarely trends. This isn't anti-technology, it's anti-unexamined completion. The machine will continue predicting, because that's its job. The question is whether we continue mistaking fluency for truth, because fluency feels smart, but truth often arrives unfinished. Look, you don't need to reject AI. You don't need to reject innovation, but you might consider giving more weight to answers, human or artificial, that can say, we don't know yet. If you're in tech and this felt slightly accurate, that's not an attack, it's respect. You're building probabilistic systems in a certainty-addicted culture. That's not easy. The irony is that I may have asked a machine for help explaining why machines shouldn't be trusted blindly. That feels on brand for 2026. But here's the part that matters. The machine will keep getting smoother. Fluency will keep improving. Outputs will sound more finished, more authoritative, more decisive, and the temptation to trust the finished version will grow with it. So, the real question isn't whether the models improve. They will. The question is whether we improve our discipline alongside them. Because the machine predicts, we predict. The difference is, we can choose to pause. For now. You don't need all the answers, but you should question the ones you're handed. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay curious, and always think first.